So, we are live at the USCCA convention.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, you know what's funny? This is actually my first one.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. Actually my first convention, and I gotta say, I'm really thoroughly impressed. Really thoroughly impressed.
You know what, Colion, it's amazing to me when I look at the breadth of this now compared to what our first one was like. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so I know a lot of people. Ironically enough, I kind of watched you as a content creator before all of this. But how did USCCA get started? Like, what sparked that for you?
I love that question. I love telling the story. In hindsight, it really was just a collection of mistakes.
Sounds like my life.
it was a collection of mistakes that started when I talk about my own self-defense awakening.
Yeah.
And of course that happened when I started having kids. And you got these little kids, and you're like, holy cow! I'm supposed to be their defender.
Yeah.
And at the time, I really knew nothing about what it would take. So one story will really give a total understanding of this. So I remember, I'm an engineer, so
Gotcha.
a ton of research, and I thought I knew exactly what gun I wanted to buy. And so a Saturday morning, I drive down to this gun shop in Germantown, Wisconsin. Walk in there. Walk to the back. There's all these glass, displays filled with every possible gun you can imagine. I walk up there, and this big, overweight, rough-looking dude. He's the guy behind the counter. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I walk up to him, and he literally does one of these. Looks me up and down. I'm not sure what I was wearing, but apparently I look like a dweeb. Yeah. And I said, sir, could I please look at that gun? And he looked at me. He goes, what would a guy like you want with a gun like that? I mean, that was the,
Do you remember the gun?
Yeah, it was probably a Glock, 17 or something.
Yeah.
And but that was the reception I got from the firearms community.
Gotcha.
This is like, back in 1998 when Tim Jr. was born.
Yeah.
And it was disheartening. But that was really the beginning.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't sound like the beginning of anything, but that was what got me to be like, this is crazy. There's got to be other people out there like me that are getting a crappy reception, and so this came out of it, which is kind of cool.
To be honest with you, you were one of the first people, and I'm not lying. You were one of the first people that when I started my firearm journey, because I started mine a lot later than yours. That I saw some of the content you were producing. And I did.
Really?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. And it really resonated with me. I really did. I watched almost, I think, all the videos you produce from a gun review standpoint. I'm not going to lie.
That's amazing.
But there's something to be said about, like, I related to the way that you presented it. And of course, I watched a lot of other people too, but
Sure.
There's something about the way you approached and the way you looked at firearms for me that I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of how I would look at it from that perspective. So.
Well, if I get to say that I had even the tiniest part in your journey, which obviously has been an amazing one, and think of the millions of people that you personally have influenced, if I can say I had a little bit to do with that, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, but see, that's a beautiful thing too, I think, about what you've built with USCCA and you being on the other side. Like I tell people, like my videographer always says, I'm glad before you met me and my awesomeness, as he likes to say, I'm glad that you had to go through years of producing your own content, making your own videos, because you have a working understanding and knowledge of it. Yeah. And so you in the same way, have an ability to empathize with both sides of the coin in a way that most people don't think have. And so I think it's invaluable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I feel like you could apply that principle to really any aspect of your life.
Yep, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
that's neat.
And I know for me, like I was fully aware of USCCA, and I thought it made the most sense in the world for me, especially with my legal background, because I was like, I know what it's like to get lost in that legal system. Yeah. I've seen it firsthand. So for me, I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense, because it can be daunting. You're dealing with one side of it, but then also the lack of knowledge. I really loved how you guys aggregate the information that I kind of single-handedly had to go look for, and then kind of put it together and then understand it. So I'm actually jealous of people now who's starting their journey now. Yeah. Because the information that USCCA provides and the manner in which it presents it, I think it's incredible.
Yeah. So I'm curious about something, Colion. So I can remember, like, after things got off the ground a little bit, 2006-ish, went to my first SHOT Show, and pretty much got another very lukewarm reception, and that's a stretch at best. It was the only person I could convince to go to that show with me to help me was my father.
Gotcha.
And we literally almost got laughed out of that place. There was a small handful of people that kind of believed in what I was doing, but I think so many people see like what this is now, and it's easy to think, oh, it just happened.
It's happened out of nowhere.
So tell me some stories about like because obviously you didn't just become who you are now.
No.
What were some of like the grinder stories?
So, ironically, I remember. So, from my genesis was I shot a gun for the very first time, and it was like a light switch cut on for me. And so that was just me in terms of just going out buying guns and shooting them. And then I reached the point where I felt like I'd reached the end of the YouTubes, right, as far as content. So I was like, you know what? I want to start making my own content. Oh. So I started doing that, but there was only one problem. Where am I going to get these guns? I was like, oh man, I'm a broke law student. I was like, I can't exactly use my loan money to go and buy guns, right? So I was like, you know what? I got an idea. I'm just going to drive around Houston. I was blessed enough to live in a big enough city where there were a ton of different gun stores.
Okay.
And so I built a decent following. So I said, I'm going to just try to drive around to these different gun stores and sell myself. I said, I'm just like, look, I'm Colion Noir. I have this YouTube channel. I just want to be able to, just when I was doing more tabletop stuff, I just want to be able to just review the guns. I'll give you guys as much pub as possible in return, and then from there, it's just whatever guns you have coming in, I figured that would help sell some of the guns faster. This is back when like Gun Broker was the bee's knees as far as buying guns on, right? So I was like, I'm pretty sure that could help a lot. And in many ways, like you experienced, I got laughed out of the store.
But doesn't that kind of fuel you sometimes?
It really did. And especially when it's one of the stores you've gone to consistently beforehand, and then they're kind of like, they give you the polite kind of shoo, get out of here. But I understood it, right?
Yeah.
Like they didn't know me from anything else. But it did motivate me. It drove me to keep going. So I kept bouncing from store to store. And in the meantime, I would get friends' guns that I could get my hands on and talk about them in that regard. And then there was this one small shop in Houston. I'll never forget it. One small shop was called Defensive Concealed. It was a weird name, right? I know, it was nuts. But had a small shop in this little storefront in this area where there was a bunch of stores. And I walked in and I was like, hey, I'm Colion Noir. I would love to, his name was Jaime. I would love to, just review your guns that you have and hopefully help. And he didn't hesitate.
Oh, really?
He was like,
awesome.
I don't know if he just read my energy or whatever the case may be.
But he's like that angel from heaven.
Yeah, pretty much, literally. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, I have a room upstairs. You can just bring your camera
stuff in. Gave you a room too? Oh, that's awesome.
So ironically enough, at the same time, I was studying for the bar.
Okay.
So I would literally, it's probably not the smartest thing in the world. I would go there I would justify that I was going to go study upstairs, and then during my breaks, I'm going to review guns, right? That probably wasn't smart, but I got the gun reviews done. But
the guns
considering my history with the bar, I probably should have did it a little bit different. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was that, and I started off with a little tiny handy cam, and I'd set up and I would go on YouTube and learn how to edit, what software, stuff like that.
So you did all that yourself?
Yeah, all self-taught. But ironically enough, it's as happy as I am now with everything and the success. Nothing makes me more happy than when I think back. You don't realize how happy you are sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Until you look back at it was difficult, but at the same time it was so pure that I just enjoy looking back at it and I go, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun considering how things are. And things are still fun for me now.
Yeah.
But that was different, So, and I really thank Jaime for that. I've tried to get in touch with him as of late. I can't get in contact with him, but he was my little tactical angel.
I tell you what, Colion, I think it's so important to what you just said, to reach out and find those folks that were that glimmer of hope that you needed at that time. And he probably had no idea what he was doing.
Nope.
But he did it.
Had no clue.
You got to find him, man. You got to find him.
I tried, man, and I'm going to keep trying. He's so invaluable, man. So, and then what it also did is it gave me the opportunity to really learn my craft.
Right.
I could have the time, and the ability to make the mistakes and, you know, figure things out
Yeah.
without the overhead of, oh, how am I going to buy this gun or get this gun and swap this gun? Because one of my friends in the beginning was like, man, he's like, you don't buy guns. You kind of just borrow them with money. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because I was swapping out guns because I needed for the content.
Sure.
So I was constantly buying guns, trading them, buying them, trading them. So clearly I lost a lot of money. But yeah, so that for me was like, that was part of a lot of the grind in that regard.
Wow.
And then the political stuff, like when I started doing what I was doing with the NRA, a lot of people don't realize what goes into that from a research standpoint.
I can't imagine.
Exactly, and you know, and they're like, and a lot of people thought they were doing everything for me. It wasn't the case. They were like, all right, so we need 6 videos in like a month. Okay. So,
because I'm not sleeping this week.
Exactly, right. But you know, there's something to be said about doing something that's meaningful, that's actually helping other people. That drive just kind of becomes natural.
Yeah.
And so it's hard, it's work, but you don't necessarily feel like it is at the time.
What's it like when you like meet some of your followers or your, I'll call them your customers, because that's what they are. And when you meet them and they tell you stories about how much of an impact you've had in your life, on their lives.
It's surreal, because in that moment, I automatically bring myself back to me being that person on the flip side, right? There's that whole concept of being able to sit on both sides of the table and having that experience and empathy. And so to hear someone say to me what I could literally almost say to you with respect to watching your content when I first got into it, it's surreal. It's utterly surreal. And like today, when I got here, I hadn't eaten anything. I was tired. And running on caffeine from coffee that I drank on an empty stomach. So, but as soon as I started meeting the people, started shaking their hands and them coming up to me, it was just like, you get lost in their experience with it. And it's freaking awesome.
So I was talking to one of my team members yesterday, and we had a meet and greet. It was like an hour and a half, and Tim, you must be tired. And I'm like, you know what? That is my favorite thing to do. Yeah. My favorite thing to do is to meet our individual customers one at a time and shake their hand, and they tell stories. Some of them tell stories, some of them just want a picture, but it literally is one of my favorite things to do.
It's also very humbling.
It is. Oh my gosh.
Incredibly humbling.
Yep.
And I love every minute of it.
My dad always preached to me, he said, Tim, the 2 most powerful qualities that any human can have in combination, and I'm sharing this with you because I can tell that you have these 2 qualities, is humility and confidence. Humility, you got to be humble, no matter what happens in life. But you also have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be if you decide you're going to set up a camera and talk about guns and think people are going to care, right? so there is aspects to that, but most importantly, at least for me, with everything you've built. Right, because I think it's awesome with USCCA and going forward. What does the future look like for USCCA?
Boy, that's such a good question. I like to think that sometimes I'm a good visionary thinker, and I mean, and at the same time, I feel that one of the most dangerous things that can happen to any organization that's growing fast is what I call shiny object syndrome. You know, it's like, what are you going to do now? Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to continue what we're doing. We're going to make it bigger. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it faster. We're going to provide even more membership benefits. And ultimately, I mean, we only have 615,000 active members. We need to have 6 million. And actually, that is, so in 2012 is when I set the vision of we're going to have 1 million members. And at the time, we had maybe 25,000. And so I literally had to convince myself that was actually real. Well, now we're knocking on the door of 1 million. Our new goal by 2030, we're going to have 4 million active USCCA members. So that's what we're going to do.
I think that's awesome. And I think the most powerful aspect of it is like I think USCCA in a lot of ways, because, you know, I'm a 2A advocate, is you guys' ability to soft advocate without even trying, right? Because you get to live in this space without the politics, without the conflict. And be this soft advocate for just the masses of people out there, while they also get a benefit that's invaluable. So
I have nothing but tremendous respect for the National Rifle Association. They've been around for 150 years, which is a lot longer than I've been alive. They've done tremendous things. The USCCA, though, I believe, the way that we're going to change this fabric of our society is through the hearts and the minds. It's not going to be screaming and yelling about, this is my right. No, this is the most powerful tool that you can use to protect your family. I don't care how you vote. You want to protect your family. Well, here's how to do it, my friend.
Exactly. And I love it, man, and I really appreciate you for building it.
So for the folks who are listening, when Colion and I first met before this, I actually had to ask him. Remember, I said, have we met face to face before? Right? Because I feel like I know you. I feel like we're buddies.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, this was the first time we met.
Very first time, and it didn't feel weird, but it felt weird because I'm like, wait, no, this never happened in person. It happened over the internet. So that goes to show you the power of the internet.
It really does.
Yeah,
you can literally create relationships.
Absolutely.
So I know we have to wrap this up,
Yep.
and so I just want to end by saying, number one, gratitude. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for sharing the USCCA story with your listeners, with your customers. And number two, I just want to say congratulations, man.
Oh, appreciate it, man.
You have done and you are doing amazing things.
Thanks.
You're affecting millions of people's lives, and I hope you realize that.
I try to. I try to keep that at the top of my mind every single time, especially the nights when I'm like, oh boy, I'm tired. but like you pointed out, like that gives me the energy to keep going.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, too.
Awesome interview.